It's just hard to believe it's 53 years ago, 55 decades.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Friday Night Pirate Lights. We get to start off tonight with the 1967 Nevada 1A State Football Championship football team here tonight. Tonight's going to be a little special, though, because this is a group that not only was successful on the gridiron, but and won their back-to-back state football championship, but also won back-to-back basketball and back-to-back track state championships. So if I could get each of you, Nick, we'll start with you. You're in my top right corner. Would you introduce yourself to the fans?
Hi, everybody. It's good to be back. Talk a little bit about football and basketball. Now, I wasn't a track man. I played baseball with Coach Batchelor in the spring, but the boys are good athletes, went and played track and did really well. The thing I remember a little bit about, and I mentioned this I think last week, is that we did have a lot of really good athletes, and more than in one sport. And what I remember about basketball our junior year, same thing, like we were inexperienced, we weren't sure what was going to happen. And the Virgin Valley had the team to beat, and they'd beat us twice during the season. And I remember playing Tom Hughes and Gary Hughes from the time I was in the third grade. And Tom Hughes was 6'4" in the third grade. I mean, at least he seemed like he was. We played in the old Logandale school, and he would get every rebound and just shoot until it went in. And we got beat by 30 points or 40 points every time we played him. And anyway, it was sweet in basketball to come and beat those guys in the zone tournament and then in the state tournament. I played center. I wasn't the tallest kid. I was 6'1"3/4", and I think Gary was 6'2.5", and he could jump. I mean, Gary was a state high jump champion too, and Gary Hickman would jump center, but I played center. And anyway, we had some good guards and a really good team of juniors that did a good job. I really enjoyed basketball. We had a lot of fun games. I just remember that we'd get to ride in the school station wagon with Coach Batchelor, and that's how we'd go to our away games. And the starting five got to ride with Coach Batchelor, and he'd tell all those old war stories from BYU and all these other things. I don't know, do you remember that, Coach Batchelor?
Yeah, that was scary at times.
I never did fall asleep, did I?
Which is more than you could say for my dad.
I don't think anybody ever had to grab the wheel while I was driving, did they?
Oh, we felt safe. Coach.
We enjoyed your stories, though, Coach.
The thing I remember in the zone tournament game when we played them for the zone championship is we had that 1-point lead and we had the ball out of bounds. And remember, they changed the signal for timeout. Instead of putting your hand together for a T, that was a technical, and they wanted it to just be an open hand. And so we had the ball out of bounds with 3 seconds to go, and you were telling Elwin Whipple to just hold the ball, the clock was running. And he thought you meant call timeout, so he called timeout. We didn't have any timeouts. And so they called a technical foul on us for an illegal timeout. And remember, Gary Hughes went and shot the free throw that would have tied the game. We won the game 41-40, and he missed the free throw, and they didn't get and then they had the ball out of bounds, and Tom Hughes did a turnaround from the free throw line, and it missed, and we won the game 40. So that was the squeaker, the tournament game.
That was poor coaching. Poor coaching when you don't have many more timeouts, Yeah, Mesquite had an excellent team that time, and they only lost 3 games, and 2 of them were to us. And that was the zone finals and the state finals. And but we were down in the state game too. I know, I don't know what the score was. We were down 6 or 8 points at half. And so we threw the press on. We had some quick kids. We threw the press on, and they didn't handle the press very well. And I don't know, what did we win by 5?
I think 7.
5 or 7.
Yeah.
I don't know what the score was. Anyway, fun time.
Let me go to Dennis. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of talk about what sports you played in high school this 1967, both years, junior, senior year?
Yeah, I'm Dennis Humes, and I played football. I played defensive back, safety, and then basketball. I was a guard. And in track, I ran a half mile and a mile. And my senior year, I was on both relay teams, and long jumped, and ran the 440. So those were my events that I ran, and then was just sports was just what I had. That was what I enjoyed the most. I didn't really participate in drama or anything else like these other guys did, or musicals. I was the only person ever cut from Ellison's choir. I think I've set a record of that. I went in there and he said, "We don't have any more chairs." So I read between the lines and didn't get in choir. So I did play band though. We had a pretty good high school career going. So anyway, yeah, I just remember these team efforts that I'm with Gary. We were kids that grew up from first grade on, and then we added these Logandale kids in 7th grade or 6th grade. I guess, Nick, you were in 5th grade when you came down.
Yeah, it was 5th grade when we came back together.
And Nick Leavitt there, we were buddies since 3 years old, so our dads were buddies. So we were teammates and friends, and it was just an awesome experience.
Gary, let me go to you. Would you introduce yourself and just kind of talk a little bit about what sports you played in high school?
Gary Hickman, played whatever they let me play. Of course, I didn't start school till almost the 3rd grade because of polio. I had braces. I was in a wheelchair while I was in the hospital.
Okay.
Iron lung.
Okay.
So you had to go in and out of the iron lung during the worst part of the paralyzation. It affected your whole respiratory, and then of course when I got out and I started recovering, then I had to learn how. I was eating baby food. Here I was 5 years old, and so I remember I ate baby food, and then started, I had a hard time swallowing, and then I had a hard time walking. Speech, I had to have speech therapy all through grade school, and I hated it because Clark County School District would send somebody from Vegas out to Overton. And I was the only one in this speech therapy class. And so it bothered me that I had to do this. But anyway, I had to learn how to eat. I had to learn how to talk. There was a lot of it that from 4, 5, and 6, and then rheumatic fever right after that did me in for another year. So.
Wow. And from that is amazing that you went on to become such the athlete that I read about and see on these, and how well you can jump and how well you can run, and that's an amazing story. We,
like Dennis said, we grew up playing on the church lawn and the dirt basketball courts. It was just something that you did all summer long, all year long. But by the time we got to, like I said, the Logandale boys, they came in the 5th grade, and we knew by the time junior high came that we had a bunch of nice, good little athletes. And by the time high school came around, well, like it says, we were top of the state. We just we played well together. There was nobody that else, was outstanding. We just and I remember in basketball, one game Dennis would be high, the next game Nick would be high, the next game Lions would be high. I think we all averaged 12, 13, 14 What I did in track, I did the high jump and the high hurdles and the low hurdles. They tried to do me on intermediate hurdles, but that was too far to run, so I didn't do that one.
Best jump in the high jump.
6'6" in high school. I think I set the state record I think they measured it at 6'5"3/4 afterwards, and that was up in Elko.
Let's go to Roger. Roger, can you introduce yourself and talk about the sports you played?
Yeah, I'm Roger Bushman. I was like Nick. These other guys were great athletes, and I played baseball with Coach Batchelor because I was slow as molasses. I think my biggest asset was that I loved the game. I loved to play basketball, especially. I loved football, basketball, and I had a pretty good head for teamwork and being in the right place and things like that. But I wasn't a good athlete. I found that out after I was invited on a scholarship to Rick's College to play basketball, and then I got up there and didn't even make the team. So, and I took some films up with me, and when I did, the coach said, "Who's that fast little guy?" I said, "That's Dennis Humes." He says, "Well, I might give you a scholarship if you get him to come up here." So that's how I got a scholarship to Rick's College, was because they wanted Denny to come play. Anyway, I just felt really fortunate to be on the starting five of a couple of years of basketball championship and football championships. And
Nick Leavitt, would you introduce yourself and talk about the sports you played in high school?
All right. Well, I'm the youngster compared to these guys. I benefited from their greatness. I played football, tried to play basketball. I was on the bench when these guys were winning state. I was the best cheerleader off the bench. Didn't have the best looking legs, but I was a good cheerleader. And I also played baseball. Loved baseball, but I remember that junior year for these guys, we had to scrape just to get enough to play. But the football, it was really a pleasure and an honor to play with these guys. As a junior, got to start on both sides of the ball and had a lot of fun experiences with these guys. Great athletes, speed, not me, but them. Power, even the linemen were fast. John Lyon, John Rice, weren't very big, but they were fast.
I remember one time Johnny Rice picking up a fumble and running it back for a touchdown about 60 yards in one of our games. And that was a real thrill for him. I just wanted to say that I think another secret to our success back in those days was that the coaches worked together and they encouraged us to play. Nowadays they seem like they all want you give your whole life to their sport. But back then, those coaches, we were expected to play in every sport because they supported each other and backed each other up. And I think that the unity among the coaches was also a good part of our success.
Well, we only had three coaches. Dallas. So we had to support each other. You were head one and assistant, and switched roles, and and away we went. So that was the thing to do, but it was good. It was good. Those were great years. I was a young coach. In fact, we went to Wells. I shouldn't tell this story, but we went to Wells and we went in to eat some dinner or something, and I went in to put a quarter in a slot machine, or maybe as a nickel. And they came and got me and said that I couldn't be playing the slots because I was on the I was under 21. Anyway, I had my head shaved. I probably looked like I was on the team, but these guys they're just a good bunch of guys, and they've remained a good bunch of guys, and we've stayed close through the years. They can tell the stories of the games. They love to play. They love to compete. They did that. Their efforts were paid off. They became state champions, and when you win them, a couple of years in a row and do that, those were the glory days of the Pirates.
One thing, I had a cousin that played for Provo High that year, and his dad came down. He was traveling through, and he came over to one of our ball games at home there in basketball, and I just remember him telling me afterwards that he thought we could beat Provo High, and he was complimenting us on how well we played together as a team. He said, those guys up there, they don't know how to play basketball. It's all one-on-one stuff, and you guys pass and play together and I think, like some of them have said, that's probably the combination of things: good coaching and unselfishness and playing together for so many years. We were used to what each other's tendencies and what we were going to do and where to put the ball so it would be in the right place and so on. I thought that was, got to set the record straight on.
Please do. Was that a shot
Please do, Roger.
or a
Yeah.
pass?
Well, it was just a pass to Gary. I caught his eye. He was going like this, like give me an alley-oop, and I threw it up there, and he went up and got it and put it in. But in the papers it said Bushman takes a wild shot and Hickman tips it in.
Under Bushman and I had eye connect, and he flipped it up, and it was just a perfect pass. And I just jumped up, and back then if you touched the rim, it was a technical foul. So, but I was right up there with the ball in the rim, and it was a definite pass.
And then, I don't know if anybody's mentioned it, but I always felt like in our senior year, we only lost 2 ball games. We didn't lose any ball games in football. And then in basketball, we only lost to Valley High School in Vegas, who went on to win the large school state championship that year. We lost to them by 7 points, I think. And then the only other game we lost was that last minute buzzer beater by Lincoln County in the zone tournament. So that's a lot of games. That's about 30 games with only 2 losses. So.
That was the Gary Catino half-court miracle shot.
Yep, it was.
I've run into Gary Catino. He's the one from Lincoln County that made that shot.
Right.
And he will never let me forget that shot. Anyway, it was.
Well, let's get to the heart of the matter here. Football season of 1967. You guys are the defending state champions. In the last video, we talked about how you guys weren't supposed to. I think it was Dennis said that you guys were picked to go last in the league at that in '66. But now I'm sure you're the favorites. Dennis, I'll start with you. What does it feel like now being the favorites to win it all?
Yeah, that was a whole new feeling. I remember that summer having a job, and then I remember Mike Whitney calling me up, and he says, "Hey, we gotta go get started in our conditioning." And I think a bunch of the other guys joined us. I don't know if the other guys remember this, but we would meet on the football field there. We were in July and started working out. So Mike was pretty focused, and he brought that focus to me, and I think the others. So I remember that we were coming into a season that was it was expected that we would do well, and so whole different scenario than it was the previous year. We didn't sneak up on anybody. We didn't sneak up on anybody as far as the games and the conditions. And I think we were pretty united right from the get-go. I remember our first practices where we were all dedicated to another championship run.
Well, I think it's true. I think it was a whole different feeling. The junior year, everything that happened, we had some losses. We weren't sure of what was going to happen, and we just pulled it out, and it was such a thrilling win to win it all. We just thought, wow, this was amazing. And the senior year, it was a different feeling because there was an expectation that we were just going to win. And particularly as we got in basketball towards the end of the year, as we were winning games every game, and you know, you got to feeling, well, if you didn't play well, people started to grumble about, hey, they didn't look that good this week. And, it was just a little different attitude towards what we did. Now in football, I never really felt that way. We were always winning pretty good, pretty big. But I think that the senior year, we had a lot of confidence and we knew what we could do. And we had excellent coaching. When Dennis talks about that condition, Coach Bushman, he would send out a preseason, he sent out a thing of all the push-ups and sit-ups and running. And we were supposed to do that while we were getting ready before practice season ever started. And, that was, and all the kids were willing to do stuff like that. So I think Dennis is right. We did get together a lot before practice to do all that. But it was a fun year because we were good. And in fact, some of the times we felt like we didn't get to play a lot. By halftime, we were up 40 or 50 points, and man, now we got to watch. So that was different. Those kinds of things were a little different. It was interesting.
Roger, did the idea of having back-to-back state champions ever cross your mind when you were, heading into the season or sometime during the season?
I had the confidence that I thought we could, but back then, when you're a kid, there's a lot of distractions, and it wasn't the total focus of my life. I just, we just kind of played, and like others have said, we just loved to play the games. We loved to play with each other, and whether it was football or basketball, we just enjoyed it so much that I didn't think about much else except having fun.
Just say, first of all, another Moapa Valley first, we were the Nevada and Utah state champions because Dixie went on and won the Utah state championship at the end of that year. In fact, I went up to St. George and watched it. They beat Delta, Utah. And anyway, that was kind of a feather in our cap. But I remember the Dixie game. I want to tell a story about Arlen Whipple. He was the center, and he was an all-state center. If you see him in the yearbook, he's listed all-state center. And I remember one particular play, they sent some linebackers right over the center, and I got thrown for a 10-yard loss, just got clobbered by about 3 guys. And Arlen came back to the huddle and he says, "What happened? What happened?" And I says, "Arlen, they came right over you." I says, "Don't you let that happen again." And I want to know that never happened again the whole rest of the year. I mean, that's how these guys were. I think, you respond to a challenge, and I always think any team as a coach, any team that gets better and better as the year goes on, they have a chance maybe to win it all.
Yeah, I remember that game because Mike Harris, we lost Mike Harris in an injury. I think he's either kicking and on an extra point, and he fumbled the ball or something, ran around the end, and he broke his collarbone. So we lost Mike Harris, who in that Yerington game you guys mentioned, Mike, he was a terror on defense. And I remember that game that we lost Mike in that game. And it was the only game I ever played fullback.
I remember Beaver only because for some reason they were the dirtiest team I ever played against. And, you can only take so much, so I retaliated once. Coach Batchelor happened to see it. He pulled me off, or Coach Bushman, one of them pulled me off. Coach Batchelor probably doesn't remember it. Pulled me off to the side and he says, "Hey, He says, regardless of what they do, you don't do that back. Okay, can I go back in? He said, sure, go ahead. But I never, I didn't retaliate again. One thing I remember, learned a valuable lesson.
Yeah, they had the NIAA did a realignment after that year. In fact, Yarrington left the A League and went to AA. That was their last year, and that's why they wanted to win so bad. But yeah, there wasn't enough. They took out Wells, and we ended up, to get enough games, we had to just play. The Southern League was just Tonopah, Virgin Valley, and Lincoln. And so we had to play each other twice just to have enough games to play. And so that's what happened our senior year.
I remember being so irritated when they went home and home, because we played Tonopah up there our junior year, and we all said on the way home that we'd never have to go there again to play a football game. And then they went home and home. And I remember Stan Hutchings, I think, had an 80-yard punt. That day was windy, rained, snowed, and the sun gave you a sunburn, all on the same day up there in Tonopah. And I remember I had 3 interceptions in that game, and I ran all 3 of them out of bounds so that I would not get tackled.
On that dirt, gravel field.
Yeah. Not a blade of grass. It was horrible. Yeah.
We played Virgin Valley twice that year. First game, we beat them 66-6. And at the end of the game, for some reason, I was in a position where I seen Virgin Valley's coach come and cuss out Coach Bushman for running up the score. And Coach Bushman, he stayed under control, and not too much was said.
When Nick was talking about after the game and the running up, I feel like I contributed to that feeling. We beat them 66-6, really thumped them well, but I was a terrible kicker. I tried to kick extra points a few times. I tried to do kickoffs, and eventually Jimmy Garcia took over all of that as we went through the year. But I remember doing a kickoff. We were up, I think we were probably up 60-0 at the time. And I'm kicking off after one of the touchdowns. And because I was such a poor kicker, I went up as I kicked the ball. I almost missed it. And it was a perfect spiral onside kick to the sideline, went 10 yards, and we recovered it ahead 60-0 with an onside kick. And it was a total accident, but yet you could see what they thought is that Bushman was trying to get the ball back again to score again. And so I felt like that was part of the reason they felt like we poured it on that first game, was because we were onside kicking in the last quarter.
That's a good one.
Probably one of our closest games, up to Cedar City. Colder than the Dickens. They were big, and we had a 32-0 lead at halftime. So you figure, okay, 60-0 maybe, another one of those. Well, in the fourth quarter, they had the ball, and they were driving. They were only behind 32-27. They were driving for the winning touchdown. I'll never forget this. I was playing right beside Dwayne Scocker. Dwayne's a big old bruiser. Quarterback goes back. Somebody tips the pass. Dwayne catches it, seals the victory with an interception. For a defensive tackle, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
So a lot of good memories like that.
Nothing, and we let them come back on us in the fourth. Where was the defense?
We were kind of glad it was 32-0, because then we could sit on the bench and stay warm.
Yeah, that was a weird deal. I'm remembering now. Somehow we got up early. I think we had a touchdown return, a punt return for a touchdown, maybe even an interception or something. We just put it all together in the first half, and then the light went off or something. Nick, you got any remembers on that one? Nick, did you get hurt at the end of that game, Nick Mower?
I did. In the second half, I remember some Cedar guy tried to block me, and he rolled over and flipped his leg, and he hit me right in the groin with the heel of his shoe, and it just dropped me, and that was the end of my days for then. I remember getting teased all the way home about how I was doing. But anyway, that was, I had to leave the game.
Because I seem to have a remembrance of playing quarterback in that game, and obviously I didn't do very well in the second half. And I seem to have a memory of fumbling the ball down on our 5-yard line or something. And so I remember driving home on the LTR and feeling kind of down that I didn't do my best in that game.
Do you guys remember how big they were, Cedar City?
Yeah, they were big.
Oh, they were huge.
Yeah.
And they had that Roberts kid that was really he was like an all-American running back.
Yeah.
And we just totally contained them the first half, but then, they just finally got it rolling in the second half. I think they were a lot better than they showed, but we had a big enough lead. We hung on and won it.
I remember there were an awful lot of holding calls on us in the second half. That's what I remember.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at the clipping, and we had 70 yards in penalties. And Denny, you had a punt return for 50 yards for a touchdown, and of course, we didn't score the second half. It was all Cedar.
Yeah.
I don't remember which, whether it was the first game or the second game, but whatever game, when we played up at Lincoln County, we had to get out of there. I mean, they were livid. They were throwing things at the bus and swearing at us. And
that was the second game, I'm pretty sure. The fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was there a fight both years? Because I know Nick talked about a referee getting punched in the 1966 season. So in the 67 season, I know Gary, you talked about kind of a fight breaking out, but was that 67 or 66, or was it both years?
I don't know. It seemed like it was every year. There was that 30-foot road between the gymnasium and the football field was not only all the fans, but it was all the football players, and you're funneling everybody into one little spot, and lo and behold, there was always some kind of scuffle. I told the one about Refugio, and I always remember that one.
Lincoln had a lot of good athletes, and they were hard-nosed. They played hard. And we always had a tough time with Lincoln. I mean, they're the guys that beat us in basketball our senior year. I mean, Lincoln just I think they hated us. They literally hated us. In fact, I talked to Gary Catino. I can't say what he said after the game when they beat us. I went into the locker room and congratulated them because, that they pulled something off that no other team had been able to do. And of course, he was just going off on how good it was to stick it to Moapa Valley. And I think Lincoln's always had that, they're a feisty bunch. And every game we ever played, I always felt like that they were the toughest competition we would meet during the season in football and even in basketball. I mean, it would get rough up there. The sidelines there was a 6-inch stripe that was right next to the bleacher. I mean, the fans were just right on top of you in that little tiny gym at Panaca. That has lasted a long time. When I became coach, and we were, of course, still have the rivalry and we're playing, what Virgin Valley would do to get themselves hyped for the game, they would have people in their community that would do things that they would blame on people from our valley coming over and doing. And so I remember one year they had gone over and put 103-0 all over their school. Just put little pasties and stuff everywhere. Nobody from Moapa did that, but people from Virgin Valley did that to fire up their own kids. And so that 103-0 has stuck in their craw for a long time. The only thing I remember about that game, and Denny or somebody mentioned that they didn't have a scoreboard, and we never knew the score. We knew we were beating them really bad, but I'll always remember when we got out, the game was over, and we got on the bus, and Wes Hughes got on the bus, and I didn't know what he was going to say, because we had just really thumped him, and he says, "Well, Pirates, I want to congratulate you. You just beat us 103 to nothing." And I didn't know if he was saying it sarcastic or whether he was giving us a compliment. But what I do remember is some kid at the back of the bus saying, "Whoa, last I heard it was only 88 to nothing." Because all of us were so surprised at what this final score was. We had no idea it was 103 to nothing. And, that's just how it turned out. But I'll always remember, that incident on the bus, knowing that none of us knew even what the score was.
After all of our years with our rival with Virgin Valley, it wasn't until I was quite old and started doing some genealogy work. I found out, I knew my mother was a Leavitt from Bunkerville. Her mother was a Potter from Mesquite, and her mother was a Hughes from Mesquite. So all the time while we were playing against Mesquite, I had half my family ties were over there. And I never even knew it.
Coach Batchelor, I can't remember if it was you telling the story about the newspaper reporter coming down and talking, doing a story about the game, and something about Jesus written in there. Was that you, Coach, that told me that story?
Hack Miller was the sports writer for the Deseret News Salt Lake Tribune in Salt Lake, and he heard about our game with Virgin Valley, and so he wanted to come down and meet Coach Bushman and talk a little bit about that. And he wrote a little article. I don't know if Nick ever found the article or not. Whether we could ever.
I have the article.
Have you got the article?
Yeah, because my sister Becky was working for Hank at that time.
For Hack Miller?
Yeah, for Hack Miller. She was working in the.
Okay. Anyway, so he wrote a little.
She's the one that told him. That's how he found out about it. Becky told him.
And anyway, so he wrote a little article about the Pirates and how they had, really good team, and came down to visit us and see what the school was all about. I think he really wanted to come fishing because he loved to fish, and he knew that we could probably take him down to Lake Mead. But of course, the article, I don't know if you have it, Roger, or not, but he said something about, this team ought to be beating people because they've got Jesus as the running back, which was Jesus.
Yeah. That's what he
said. Because Jesus is the running back, and with him you should be pretty good. So I think he wrote that line in the article.
That week, about 8 of our sophomores got in trouble doing something up at the ag farm. Hard to believe, but they got in trouble, so they didn't get to dress that game. So all we had pretty much was juniors and seniors, linemen running the ball, and I felt bad. I never got to run the ball or score a touchdown that game, and some of the linemen did. So, he tried to keep it under control.
These are the Bushman football plays of 1967, and they're old mimeograph. Every page gets a little lighter, but they would hand these out at the beginning of the year, and you guys will all remember, okay, ready, set, down, righto, all these T-toss, flip, power sweep, reverse. Anyway, they're all on here. Now, I thought someday I could auction these plays off. These are the plays that beat Virgin Valley 103 to nothing. So these are a collector's item. And I think that on eBay, we may be able to fund the Boosters Club for all the money they're ever going to need by getting this set of plays, because these are a proven set of plays that, who knows what the worth is. We'll only know if we put them up on eBay. They started the hammer back in, actually our sophomore year. Blaine Allen was the principal of Mesquite, and Virgin Valley initiated the hammer. So Virgin Valley wanted to do the hammer, and when they started playing football again, see, they didn't play football for a lot of years. Our sophomore year was their first year back starting football again. And so they initiated the hammer, and whoever won the game got the hammer, and that was always the chant during the game, we're going to win the hammer.
Yes. We kicked off to them and then we held them. I think it was either 3 and out or 2 possessions. Then they punted and Jesus fielded the ball, and then we did the Moapa volley reverse, and he handed it off to me. And they followed Jesus. They took it hook, line, and sinker, and came around the right end there towards our bench, and there was a wall. We had the wall set up. I don't remember anybody even getting a hand on me. It was close because the wall was just taking them out right and left. And so we went up. I think we missed the extra point. So we were up 6-0 within a few minutes of the game.
The thing I see, this whole game was a Dennis Hume's highlight film. I mean, Dennis was just all over. And that punt return, I don't think anyone did touch him. And he had another one that I think he almost scored on, and he maneuvered around guys, and he was just really shifty as a runner. I mean, he was good, and he set the tone right then. I mean, I think it stunned Lovelock. Getting that punt return for a touchdown, it was just, it set the tone.
Yeah, I just remember that being in my mind. It was such slow motion. The whole play was slow motion, and they were slower than motion. So it just seemed like they were big and slow. And at that time, I thought, this is just the beginning. I really do think we have them already.
I remember really well was on defense. I was playing the left end, and Nick was the linebacker right behind me, and he was having so much fun predicting what they were going to run, and he called so many of them right. They would run that bend turnip seed dive on first down time after time, and he would say to me, "Turnip seed dive," or something like that, and he would go, he would just fill that hole. And I was just amazed that I thought he was a genius, because he could predict what they were going to run before they ran it half the time. And that Ben Turnipseed was supposed to be such a great runner that but anyway, he didn't do so well in that game. Nick put a stop to that.
I think the coaches really tried to play up Lovelock in their defense. They only gave up 6 points a game. They'd given up 49 points the whole season on all their games. And, they tried to let us know that we were in for a battle. And of course, the state championship game the year before, we were in a battle, and we felt really lucky to win it. And so we thought that Lovelock was going to be very similar. The only thing we didn't look at and knew is that they'd only scored like 54 points all year. They had relied entirely on their defense to win their games. And when Denny runs the punt return back, all of a sudden, they're only averaging 6-7 points a game. I mean, they were done. So but I thought we didn't know, and we felt like we were going to really be in for a battle because of their size. And Ben Turnipseed, they were the leading rushers in the state. Even though our halfbacks were way better, they actually had the stats that, as a great running team and a great defensive team. And their coach, I think, predicted that they would win the game by their defense. And they said, we know Moapa could be scored on because we'd given up 109 points. you know, so, you know, they felt like they could score and they'd shut us out and they could win. It was an 8-yard pass to Gary Hickman. Got us the second score there in the first quarter, and they had actually stopped us near the goal line previous to that. After the, you know, we got down there and didn't score, and then this time the pass to Hickman, and then for the extra point, I threw a pass to Elwin Whipple. It was what we called the what was that? Rollout pass, and Elwin at the halfback, we just kind of, he had head out into the flat, and he was wide open, and so we did get an extra point. Made it 13-0.
Gary, what did it feel like catching a touchdown pass in the state championship game?
Well, that was a gimme. we had a lot of those little short passes, and but like I said, that typical to us. We pretty much scored at will throughout that game. Whether it was a run back or Jesus and Elwin were just picking them to death with good yardage, and I don't think their defense ever got set on us.
We never punted once in the game. We didn't punt in that game once. Whipple had a 6-yard run for the next score. And then the extra point was another pass to Whipple, the old, what we call the T-quick pass. But anyway, Whipple scored that one. $20-0, and we had the ball again, and we were down close to the goal line. They punted, and we got the ball near about 5 or 6 yard line, and we fumbled the ball on the 8 or 9. I can't remember. We ran a 35 spin or something, and I think it was Stan Hutchings that had the, you know, when we fumbled, and so we we try, I think they took 4 downs to score, but they actually scored with 1:20 left in the half, and then got the extra point, and so it was 20-7 at halftime. So really, it was still a ball game. I mean, 20-7. But I remember being upset that the only reason they had scored is because we turned it over right there near the goal line. That was the only reason they were able to do what they did.
While we're talking about, this thing about defense and offense, we had a great offense, and you mentioned that we had a really good defense. And every day in practice, we'd line up there with Coach Batchelor on the defensive end trying to stop these guys. And guys like Nick Leavitt and Dwayne Scocker and Joe Perez. Us guys in the defensive backfield, we took great pleasure in following them up a little bit, making them work for every yard they got. So that was good practice skills there for us to have a defense that was almost nobody went two ways. I think Nick Bowler went. I think Case went two ways. Roger went two ways. So there were 3 or 4 athletes there that went, but. For the most part, we had a good defense. We took a lot of pride in our defense.
As a right guard, I got to pull quite a bit. I love to pull because you'd get to go hit the end. And we had a play, Jesus run it. I think it was called.
He reverse.
What was it?
He reverse.
Okay, yeah, he would hesitate a little bit, give me time to get out there and get that in, and he's always right behind me. And old Hayes, if you just get one guy out of his way, he was gone. I love that play.
The fun plays that occurred during the game was a power sweep reverse. It was a play that we ran quite often. We ran the power sweep quite a bit, where I'd turn and pitch the ball to Elwin Whipple, and he would sweep. And that's the game, or the play that he scored in Yerington. to score a touchdown in the Yerington state game the year before. But we ran the power sweep reverse. I turned and would pitch it to Elwin, and then I'd roll the opposite way. And as Elwin began to sweep around the end, he would hand the ball off on a reverse play to Jesus. Jesus Tellis then would get the ball and run back my direction. And my assignment was either to block for Jesus or to be there as a potential lateral. Well, in this particular play, you'll see that as Jesus is coming around the end, I'm out there about 4 or 5 feet to the side of Jesus, and he laterals me the ball. Just as he gets hit, he laterals me the ball, and I take the pitch and I scamper down the sideline and score a touchdown. And I think that was the only time we had ever done that play that way. And here it was in the state game, thinking it was a great play. And but there's a flag called on the play. Evidently, I was a foot or two in front of Jesus, and so the referees called an illegal forward pass and lost him down. So that play was just a highlight, but did not score a touchdown during the game. The next time we scored, it was Elwin Whipple again. It was a 36-yard run.
Probably mentioned last time, Elwin was quick. Elwin was quick, and he could get in and out of a hole and change speeds, and he had enough quickness that he just was a good player. And he could see where the cut ought to be made. He could make the cut, and with his quickness, and he was a sprinter. I mean, he had speed. So I think that his quickness was his best asset. Even though he was fast, you still have to be quick. Quick to the hole and quick to make the cut and things like that.
He was fast and quick, unless we were picking up bales of hay, and he always was on the tractor.
So he was smart. Okay.
He was smart.
He was smart, yeah.
Nick Leavitt, what were you going to say?
Well, very shifty, very fast. As a lineman, you never could stop. Because you never knew where Elwin was going. I mean, he'd go the route that he's supposed to, but all of a sudden, if it was tied up or something, he'd change directions, and before you know it, he's coming back the other way. So you always had to be on the ball when Elwin was running it, because he's just so shifty, so fast. He was just all over the place.
Yeah, it was called the single wing.
Yeah.
And I would line up behind center like I would, and we would be in a straight T formation with the 3 backs in a row. And then I would say, ready, or shift, and I would move over behind the guard, and the halfback and fullback would line up behind the center, just offset a little bit, so he could hike it either one. And then the other halfback would go out to the wing. And so off of that, we had reverses and spins where the fullback would spin and hand it to the halfback, or just keep it and go right up the middle. You see that play several times, the 36 spin, 35 spin, and then we'd run a pass off of that.
So that was Stan that was running the spinner. He was the one that would run the spin and then go up the middle.
Yeah, he ran the spin plays up the middle, and sometimes he'd hand it off to a halfback around the ends, the 18, and spin, and that's how they were ran. But we didn't have too many pass plays off the single wing. They were mainly run plays.
Jesus was not a whit slower than Elwin. He was quick as lightning too, but he had a different style. Jesus would just go right straight forward. His was all north and south, and Elwin, like he said, would run around this way, and if it wasn't open, he'd run around the other way. They were both fast, grease lightning though.
And then Tellis scored again later for a 1-yard run. I can't remember what the play was. If I was watching the film today, and I was trying to remember the name of every play that we ran, and I was surprised that I knew most of them. I was thinking, okay, that was the T reverse, that was the ready, that was the dive, that was the down. I was trying to remember the name of every play that we ran.
We had the touchdown return. We had another return that got into the end zone but stepped out on the 2, so that set up another one.
Getting back to Mike Harris. Mike and I, we played a lot in the hills against the side of the mountain there where we both lived on that side of town. But Mike was a great athlete. Got injured there with his collarbone, but he served us in Vietnam. And he got injured in Vietnam and came back like a lot of Vietnam vets did, just really did a number on his head. And he spent a lot of years, the government didn't take care of him, the veterans didn't take care of him, and he didn't take care of himself very well. But he went to work for me for a while over in Mesquite when I started doing the hotels over there. And he was starting to get it back together finally, and had an accident and got killed. And I really miss that kid. He had a tough break coming out of high school and going in the Marines. Here we were all trying to avoid it, and he joined up and did his part.
I just mentioned my buddy Dwayne Scocker. He and I were high school buddies, and of course he was a friend of all of us. But he played defensive tackle, so it was an ongoing argument between he and I who had the most tackles. And I never did hear, or he never would let me down telling me about that interception at Cedar City. I mean, I always heard about that all his life. So it was great. It was great to, these guys were mentioning, it was great to share these experiences with them because they meant so much to us when we were kids growing up. Mike Harris and I used to run AAU track meets when we were 5th, 6th, 7th grade. So yeah, it's good to remember these guys.
Yeah, we also lost Arlen Whipple and
Out of my class, Stan Hutchins.
oh yeah, that's who it was.
Yeah.
Stan. Yeah. Both of them are gone now too, and they were big contributors.
Oh yeah.
Another play that's wasn't a spectacular play, but something that happened during the game is, I think it was in the second half, where I threw a pass. We were down near the end zone. I threw a pass and threw it out of bounds, and it was caught on the sideline by G. Ray Newman. G. Ray Newman was the librarian at our high school. And he catches this pass, and he acts like he's going to run it back for a little ways. And, of course, then you see him laugh, and he throws the ball to the referee. Well, Mr. Newman had a newspaper that he wrote every week called The Wastebasket. It was a faculty newspaper that was distributed among all the teachers. And he talked about that great pass that he caught in the game and was going to run it back, but he wasn't going to try to score for Lovelock because he knew that the Pirates would all gang up on him. But he was so excited that he had caught that pass during the game that he ran. He and his family ran the theater there on Main Street in Overton. The Pioneer Theater was called today. Back then it was the El Notrivo, and as a kid growing up, the El Notrivo was where we went on weekends to see the movie. Later on, found out that Notrivo, all it was Overton spelled backwards. It's not a real Spanish name. And so anyway, he owned the theater, and so he writes about catching this pass, and then because he was part of the game, he felt like he wanted to give all the Pirates on the team 2 free passes to the movie theater. And my dad said, well, to do that, you're going to have to buy an activity card from the high school. So he did that. He bought an activity card to make it legal that he could give 2 free passes to all the players after the game to go to the movie theater.
I do remember getting into play offense on an extra point, and I took a lateral from Nick, and Nick went around the end there, and I went to the right and threw it back over the top for an extra point. So that was I think my only pass completion of my career as a quarterback.
Dennis Hume's pass to me for the extra point, that was the only pass I ever caught also. So that was my highlight.
And credit to Coach Bushman, he knew what he had to work with, and he did a great job, of directing us and running us, and it was just a well put together team. And and the saying was is not about Moapa getting beat, but who could beat Moapa Valley, and of course that went all the way through the state game. That was always the kicker, is to have a team come in from up north that's bragging about being the best defensive club in the state, and they walk off the field with their tail between their legs after we whopped them good. And that was kind of the kicker for that whole senior year of football. It was being able to whop them like that, 54-7 in a state football game, and like I said, it made it fun. I remember that we were still on the field celebrating, and the Lovelock team was on the bus headed out of town.
They had a long way to go to get home.
Yeah.
They didn't stick around at all.
Like I say, my role was on defense, and I do have great memories of that championship game. I think I was able to participate quite well. We had the touchdown return, we had another touchdown return that got into the end zone but stepped out on the 2, so that set up another one. And then I had 2 interceptions in that game and a fumble recovery. So that was a great memory for me to have an opportunity to be on that championship team.
So you get the game ball?
No game ball. We just took a game win. It was awesome.
Oh, we always rang the victory bell after every game. Every game we would run off the field and head down to the front of the gym and ring that bell before we went in and got dressed. And we hadn't had the bell for that many, just a few years, and so it was still a thrill every time we won that we rang the bell.
Really quick, remind me who donated that bell to the high school?
Okay, the bell. My dad had found the bell. A guy named Red. He was an auto mechanic, and he had an old Quonset hut down there back where True Value Hardware is. It was just right in that area. You guys in Overton remember Red's machine shop.
Right, yeah, right next to where
Oh,
I used to
yeah,
live.
yeah.
Yeah, anyway, he's the one that had the bell, and I don't know where exactly he had gotten it from, where the bell, but he had it. And so my dad talked to him and asked him if he would donate that bell, because he thought that it would be a neat idea to have a victory bell that we could ring, you know, after games. And so that's how we got it. And then they built the thing, and we just bought into it. We love ringing the bell after every win.
Grateful are you to the Dallas Larsen, you know, someone who's not even from Moapa but understands what it means to Moapa Valley? Kind of maybe, you know, share some thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is awesome. You know, Dallas has got vision. You know, Dallas has got vision in the sense that what this will mean for, you know, not motivation maybe so much, but pulling people together and remembering things. It's good. I mean, high school experience is learning. It's all about learning. And you learn about yourself, your abilities, your talents, whatever, and then you just put them to the test in a game of some sort, and you learn that you can do, you know. And Dallas is this is invaluable. I think it's great that he's doing this. Shows a particular character of a man that'll spend time on something like this. You know, that's awesome.